Hello, everybody. And Merry Christmas.
Merry
Welcome
Christmas.
to the long
Merry
run.
Christmas to everyone.
Long run live stream. Well, not so live stream, we've a little bit, we've done a few bits and bobs. So we've recorded this a little while ago, but Merry Christmas anyway. And hopefully you'll be able to download this on your podcast provider of choice and go out on your Christmas run and listen to us rambling on about all sorts of stuff. We didn't want to, we couldn't leave you, could we? Not Christmas Eve. You wanted your fix.
How could we? With one of the biggest running podcasts in the UK, the biggest in Slovenia, and in Malta taking over, how could we let our listeners down?
Absolutely not. And it's as much a relief, it's as much a boost for us as well, because we love doing it and we love talking to you as well. So what we're going to do today is we're just going to have a little bit of a it's probably good to have a recap about what went on this year, and then next week, New Year's Eve, don't get too drunk, kids. We'll have a look forward to what's in store perhaps for 2022. So as normal, I'm joined by producer Toby. Al's looking very festive.
Very, very well
Minnie
done,
along
Al.
with him. That's a beautiful hat, mate.
Santa
I've got a t-shirt on that I wore to the run at Stratford the other day.
Impressive.
So it's been washed. It's looking good.
Very
I'm still
impressive.
being festive. And
I've just come in my long run hat and
Chris is stayed on message. Ever the professional. 365 days a year. None of this Christmas Eve off. There's a sale.
I moved a few cables around to tidy up a little.
Yeah, Tobe moved a few cables. Well done, Tobe. So he's made an effort. I've made zero, but you boys have well and truly covered us on that. And I have to say, well done, lads, for actually a bit of forward thinking. The fact that we pre-recorded this, so we get Christmas Eve off. So that's always a good shout, especially in my household. And also the fact that we're even thinking about the next podcast that we're going to pre-record it. It almost, you could say, and I'm not saying that this is, you could say that we're actually starting to think about the stuff we're going to talk about.
Yeah, just think how good it'll be when we start thinking about it.
Well, we'd probably be number one running podcast in the UK. Can you imagine?
There's a target for, but we'll talk about targets for 2022 next week. What we wanted to do here was just to look back on what was a very eventful year, literally, that we actually managed to get some events underway after the terrible sort of 18 months or so that people have gone through, where obviously getting medals in running races were very far from a lot of people's minds. There were a lot of problems, lots of difficulties people had, obviously, with the pandemic and everything. But the good thing about 2020, one of the good things about 2021 was, Chris, that we were able to get together again and do the thing that we love.
You know what? I'd say that's probably the biggest highlight for me, putting it straight out there, was able to get back out there and run with people from the club and the community and to get together with those guys. Some of those people I hadn't literally seen for 2 years or whatever it was in the end, because of the pandemic. And separately, just while I think about it, we're always thinking about email into us. Wilco, what's the email address?
longranshow@gmail.com.
Good man, well done. Your highlights of 2021, and we'll read them out if you get them in time for the next pre-recording show we do. So let us have those, and we'll actually, that won't work, will it, Wilco? Because we're probably
it won't. But then I'll tell you what. Why don't we stick a message up on the Facebook group, and then we'll get people to do it, and then perhaps we'll be able to read some out.
Again, I'm trying to think of trying to almost think sort of semi-professionally, but again, manage to cock it up.
Yeah, you're like a good snooker player, mate. You're trying to think 2 or 3 shots ahead, aren't you?
Yeah, but still manage to fall down on the black. So again, just shows you how professional that we are on this show. But going back to the serious point I was trying to make, it was just incredible to get back out there and for me personally, being the idiot that, is behind some of this stuff, to see the pink shirts up and down the country, all over the country, and obviously with the rhubarb and custard as well that came out now, to see that, all the race pictures. I love Medal Monday. I love it because I get to see all the pictures of everybody, where they've been, all over the world now. Big shout out to Ray in the US and some of the other guys all around them, and some of the other listeners in South Africa. It's not South Africa, South America.
Yeah.
But yeah, just shout out to see, the tops all over the globe. And I tell you who's great is Is it Spicy on the Run on Instagram? She tags us club runner.
Rachel.
Yeah, Rachel. She's an air. She works for, I think, Virgin Atlantic or Virgin, whatever they're called. Big shout out, Virgin. If you want to sponsor the podcast, email us at, what is it?
longmanshow@gmail.com.
The sponsors are filling up if you've listened to any of the recent podcasts, but we're happy to take you on as well. But she's out there wearing her 40 runs tops, everywhere she goes as well. It's just crazy to see some of the stuff that she gets up to. So yeah, that's been one of the biggest, if not the biggest highlight for me this year was to be back, running and racing with people from the community and the club, which is what it's all about for me. I don't really care, as you guys know, how fast I run, what distance I run, whatever. I couldn't give a monkeys. It's all about being with you guys and being part of that community and that club of everyday
I think
runners.
we do also at this point have to give a big shout out to the people who have organised events and the lengths that they've gone to give us the opportunity, particularly our friends at companies like Active Training World and Run Through and things
London
like that.
Marathon events, smaller
people, obviously the big city marathons, they went on and they've got the support of everything, but these people depend on people like us turning up to their events for their livelihood.
Run Through.
And they've done such a brilliant job over the last 12 months. I don't think they could be thanked enough by the running community.
Yeah, and the hoops they had to go through. You can imagine, right, trying to put a run on in London, in Lewisham, for example, or somewhere like that. God, the loop, hoops they must have had to jump through originally to get that stuff off the ground. You think, and as you say, that's people's livelihoods there. You've also got like the photographers that are attached to it. You've got the stall holders who go to those sort of things. You've got the guys who print the numbers. All of that's attached to, who all got killed in the pandemic. They've been able to get back up and running. So yeah, big shout out to those smaller companies.
And I suppose another massive lift that so many people would have got was the return of Park Run.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can underestimate the power of that. From the connectivity of communities locally to be able to get that back up and running. Also, I think as a big advocate of obviously children in running with the juniors that we do, to see junior Park Run return as well, I think is extremely powerful. I know that some schools have struggled with the daily mile and things like that and reintroducing that because of the constraints around it. So to be able to have that free junior Park Run on a Sunday.
And it was good, perhaps, from an altruistic point of view, it was good to see that the kids actually got back into action before the adults, didn't they? That they were able to.
We was able to get the juniors back up and running earlier than the adults, which was good. I think that was a sensible thing. We was outdoors and we, back COVID. So that was good that we was able to do that and get some of the kids active again, in the after school clubs and stuff that we were doing. That was great opportunity to get them connected and back running and, getting some fitness and more importantly, say for their mental health than anything else as well. But yeah, so super powerful this year. I think Park Run's been to get that back. And I think I'd be interested to know what the numbers are like, in terms of the return, whether there was some stats or whatever, Al, maybe that's a job for you to see whether, I know it's good for you.
Keep your active,
the numbers have returned to what they were pre-COVID for Park Run now. So I know you're busy on our secret project that we can't talk about till 2022, which we're not allowed to mention. But you could have a look into that for us. See whether Park Run numbers have returned to pre-COVID levels, or because of the amount of runners that got involved during COVID, has this seen a massive increase at some of these? I don't know.
I've been very impressed with people that I've known who are now completing half marathons that didn't run before the lockdown. I thought I'd anticipate that there'd be a big influx of people going to Park Run and things like that, because it would be like, oh, I could do this, I could try a 10K, but people are going in 2-footed and doing these bigger races, marathons even.
Yeah, it's a bit like Tobe signing up for landmarks without a clue what he's actually signed up for. That sort of thing. But yeah, fair play to people for wanting to do something. I think it's, it's driven by, as always now, social media, seeing people doing all these other stuff and I want to get involved in the Great North Run or London landmarks and that kind of stuff. And, why not go for it? We can all get out there, get yourself a training plan. You can all do it. You know, we've taken people from couch to marathon distance, and done it very, very well. So 100%, you know, even if you're listening to this podcast and you'll think to yourself, well, I can do a 5K, sign up for a half marathon in 2022. Do it. You know, get onto FORDY Run's coaching website, good plug out, and download one of our plans or book us in for a session. See what I did there. But yeah, no, in all seriousness, get yourself a plan, get a free one. You don't have to pay for it, you know.
Yeah, it's a good. I mean, that's exactly what I did sort of 3 or 4 years ago. That I planned, put in to do a half marathon, sort of like 9 months in advance, and I kept going and plodded on. And now,
100%,
you know,
just
I'm
go
still
for it.
doing it.
If you're thinking about
I've done my first marathon this year.
If you're thinking about it for 2022, or could I do a half marathon? Yes, you could. Or could I do the marathon? Yes, you could. 100%. It's all about, funnily enough, I had a client today, a new client to me, and we was talking about it. They're at 10K and they were like, oh, I'd love to do a half marathon. I said, well, why are you doing the half? You might as well do the marathon. Because effectively it's the same principle to a degree. You're just increasing your mileage. It's finding that consistency, finding that pattern, getting that sort of regular work into your week in terms of your running, and just concentrating on increasing your mileage nice and slow and building it up. Yeah, you got a bit of fueling to worry about, pacing, things like that, but that's the easy part. Getting out there and doing those longer runs is the hard part, but you can 100% do it. So sign up. And I think I convinced them to sign up for a marathon. So
and the thing is that people have already made, you know, in 2021, people have made their first steps towards doing these things if they want to do them. If you don't want to do them, that's fine too. You know, if you want to enjoy just trying to get a bit fitter and enjoy the outside environment, perhaps you're working from home and you're stuck at home all the time.
Great idea.
Just enjoying, you know, getting out for half an hour, just going for a run around the block or something, or around your local park. That's fine too. We're not just here for people who want to go and smash sort of times. We
everyday
are interested in everybody and all their running journeys, whatever rate you're progressing at.
Yeah, we love you all, and that is
it was good it was good that we made all the changes and we managed to get back into action.
Yeah, I think for me there was probably 3 particular highlights when we're kind of focusing on the community element. I think the first one was around seeing the growth of our satellite clubs. So, you know, we had a couple before COVID lockdown. We came out of lockdown and they just mushroomed. And that was great because we saw new faces in new places.
Hello. Big shout out to all the satellite clubs. Big shout out.
So that was really encouraging. And I think every satellite club that pre-existed saw their numbers virtually double. And I was lucky enough to kind of launch a couple in Essex, in Chelmsford and Wickford. I think the second highlight for me was hard work, but actually bringing one of the earliest races back, which was our Rock Up and Run, event number 2. It had been delayed for over 6 months. That was an early start that day, but it was so great to see people travelling in a COVID secure way, as it was still at the time, to find a race. And then finally, you know, Chris has already touched on it in terms of the juniors, but seeing the summer camps absolutely subscribe to the limit, and some of those kids coming back for a 5th and 6th go at it because they were just having so much fun, being out, having a lot of fun and getting fit and getting healthy and improving their mental health. So all of those, I think, just show what an awesome community we've had, you know.
Yeah, and we're planning to do the same next year.
Stuff. Yeah, that we really promote here for everyday runners. So they were just 3, but I could go on. There was so many.
Yeah, so many. What about you, Tobe, in terms of the community in the club? What was apart from obviously getting qualified and, you know, doing all your other bits and bobs and, you know, getting a white Audi, what else have you been your highlights club and community related?
We might have to re-record this when the white Audi doesn't show up, but, you know. Well, I think it was finding the club, really. If you think back to, when was it? March 2019. I think that's actually when we first met.
Toby who?
Who?
Wasn't it?
Exactly. That is literally it. I mean, before then, I wasn't even...
You're just some random stalker.
I randomly just appeared, yeah. And that was it. And getting involved, you know, down in Hertford, where it all started, with Ian. down there with the juniors more than anything. Getting, and then moving on to getting qualified and all that sort of thing. That's where, but before that, running was with me was just me. Do you know what I mean? And it's made a huge difference just finding the community and people, and you guys, and just moving it on and having fun. That's what it is, isn't it? Running, having fun, which is what we've done.
But that's the ethos of it. The ethos of the club and the community is one, inclusivity, 100% inclusivity. It doesn't matter if you're run a marathon in 2 hours, 8 hours, or you just go out and run 3K a day. We don't care. It's for everybody. It doesn't matter what age you are, what gender you are, what color you are, where you're from. We couldn't give a monkeys. Everybody is welcome. And the other thing as well, most importantly, is to have fun. There is absolutely no point in doing anything unless you're having fun. Now, that might upset some people when we go to some of these races, or even if you're doing a training run.
I remember, wasn't it brilliant when we went? We did one of the first races we did back where we were on thing was the Ware 10K, and which is a local event to lots of us. So, which is organised by Ware Joggers, which is a great local
club, big
club in Hertfordshire, lovely people. And it was one of the first things that we got together, wasn't it? And there were people doing sprints across the
Enfield, which is a great club. They were there, weren't they?
But the only voice you could hear was Sabrina going, "Come in all round here." And we were all getting a big picture taken and mucking about and just
sitting there drinking coffees and eating donuts. And I think Trace turned up hungover. She was steaming.
Yeah, Tracy was it was great that Tracy turned up hungover because she brought with her a huge birthday cake. So we're all getting stuck into that. And it sort of like epitomised the whole. We took it over really. There's loads of people said about the number of pink shirts that were on display. We had a great time. And what I will say as well, that talking about fun and having a good time, the big thing that we've done, one of the big things that we've done in 2021 is this podcast. And the predecessor that had when we first started doing chats on Clubhouse. And we've definitely moved on from there. We had sort of subscription issues. It didn't quite do what we wanted it to do.
It wasn't the platform that we anticipated. There was a lot of I think like any of these sort of social media things that come up. This is the next big hot thing, and we loved the idea of Clubhouse because it was a two-way forum, and that's why we like recording. If you're new to the podcast, or you're watching this, but we love the forum of recording these. I would say most of the time. Obviously, this is pre-recorded because of Christmas, but we like recording them live because of the interaction we get from you guys. We quite make it quite obvious that we don't plan any of this stuff. We rarely read any of the emails until literally 2 minutes.
He's speaking for himself here. The rest of us are all polished performers.
But it's true though, right? We like the idea of Clubhouse is because it was a two-way forum. It wasn't just us talking to some elite athlete that's won like 50 medals or something, or has run 1 hour 56. And oh, by the way, this is sponsored by some, hydration or nutrition product that I've got a percentage in the company. It's not about that. It is about us talking of rubbish, but talking about our experiences, talking about running in general, having a bit of a laugh. Everything we say on here is pretty much tongue in cheek, I would say. Like we hammer each other, but I deliberately drop things in about other people and other but it's all tongue in cheek. It's all just for a bit of a laugh, bit of a giggle, and that's what the forum is. But the most important driver to this show that we do. And the reason we want to do it is, one, to give a voice to the everyday runner, hence some of the guests we've had on this year and that we will have on in 2022. That's a really important thing to us. But it's also just to chat from an everyday runner's perspective, what we're going through, whether it be weight loss, mental health, races, events. That was rubbish. New shoes, new kit, what's going on here? What are we planning to do this? All that kind of stuff. But to have your involvement in that is what's really, really, really important. And again, I've said it, I think, on every episode, thanks, because we do love it. And we do this now because we just simply enjoy turning on a Friday and having a bit of a giggle, mainly to take the mickey out of Toby and Alan. But it's a bit of a laugher, but we just love hearing from you. So yeah, Wilco, good show.
I really enjoy it. And Al, it was you had the original idea to do something like this.
what's
It
his
worked
idea?
out as you anticipated, or was there too much Mickey taking and vegans and things?
Well, it's an opportunity to push the vegan theme, isn't it? Even if
I've not mentioned that word for
for
20 minutes. I've not mentioned that word for 20
I
minutes.
think that's the longest we've gone on any episode
Can
so
you just
far.
make a note of that? I've not mentioned that for 20 minutes.
half
I'm
a
not
year
mentioning
of
being
existence.
old, being in a home, being too old to be on this podcast, being too old to jump out of a plane, is diet. I'm not going to say the word. I've not mentioned nothing for 20 minutes. Can we just make a note of that, boys?
Anyway, but Al, it's you've enjoyed it. You thought it's done what needs.
Chris has kind of already said it, but it was seen as a way of getting that dialogue going and looking for whatever form of medium would allow us to do that. And we've met people by doing this podcast from literally all over the world now that we would have struggled to do if we were just relying on meetups on race days. And don't get me wrong, that's probably some of the best bits of race days, actually, the
100%.
half hour before the race.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, coming on and doing shows like this, I think has given a voice to a lot of people that wouldn't have had a voice. Think back to some of the guests; they've done some awesome stuff in their running career, either this year or previously, and they wouldn't have got a chance to kind of share that. And I think just making that opportunity available to people is something that we should celebrate ourselves. Really,
I think as well that they've all been. I mean, I've spoken to. When we have a guest on, I often speak to him the day before and just have a chat and sort of like get a bit of background information so we can have a chat and try and do a decent sort of interview thing. And some of them, people they tend to they're a little bit nervous and stuff, but they all rise to the occasion and they've all been great. They've been. I don't know whether it's because that deep down somebody is going to be. It's a certain type of person who will be attracted to joining a running community on Facebook and turning up and saying, hello, I'm me. Some people will never have that in them to be able to have that confidence to do that.
Yeah.
And everybody's risen to the occasion when they've come on. It's been great.
Yeah, I think you're right, Wilco. You touch on it. I think people who, are built that way in which they're happy to share their journeys on a platform, on a social media platform, whether it be Instagram, whether it be, Facebook or whatever, you usually find those individuals are happy to talk about whatever their journey is, because that's just the way that they tick. That's just, look at me, I sit there and make YouTube videos. That's not for everybody. We're all into different things. But so, yeah, we have been blessed. We
all like banging on about running, don't we?
And this is the thing. As runners, we love to talk about running, which is why we've done this podcast. As one of the reasons is because we love to talk about it. And there's I suppose it's the same. I've never listened to one. And I know Toby listens to them every night, but like cycling podcasts, he loves them. He absolutely loves listening about cycling, and ours on there listening, to his sort of, how to make NutriBullet juices podcast. So there's, it's something for everybody, but runners do love to talk about running. I mean, I suppose you could say the same about golfers, I suppose, couldn't you? They like to talk about golfing, being an ex-golfer that I am as well. So yeah, it is. But the people do, they when they're into something proper, you can literally talk to them about it for hours.
I'm just getting to the stage now where I'm thinking I'm banging on about this too much.
Yeah, you do though, don't you? You do. Do you notice that you still, whatever happens, whatever convo you're in, you still drop in the fact that you've done a marathon, or I've got to go for a run tonight, or whatever. And
I see, like, I've had people sort of like at work, sort of like, oh, what's your highlights of the year? Oh, my highlight was running my first marathon. And I'm thinking, everybody bloody knows this now. Why am I still going? I can't stop myself. I can't stop.
You know you've got it bad when you meet someone for the first time and you're looking at their watch to try and gauge.
Yeah, it's true. In meetings. In meetings, you sit there looking at their watches because you're thinking, hang on a minute, is that a Garmin 735 or is that?
Does that mean they do a bit of tri as well?
Yeah, he looks a sneaky triathlete. Yeah, you do though, don't you? You can't help it. Or me, I look at people's shoes, see if they've got running shoes on. That's how much of a geek I am. I'm looking at people's shoes. That's how weird I am. I was walking the dog the other day, and this woman ran past. She could have been like, I don't know, some absolute stunner. I was looking at her shoes. Do you know what I mean? I was, it's just random stuff like that.
Pronate or not?
Huh? Yeah, I was. You can't help yourself as a coach, right? You can't help but look at people. I'm driving along and I'm looking not at the runner, I'm looking at their form. And then I'll start talking about it. Because you just can't help yourself. It's like an addiction, isn't it? Maybe we should start another podcast. I'm addicted to running. Or maybe we should just rename this. Get Manscaped to change the name for us, and we sponsor it and change the name. But then I need a new hat, and you'd need new t-shirts.
Well, yeah, we'll have to think about that later.
Yeah, it's a lot to think
and
about.
So we've covered the sort of like the community aspect, and we've both inside the club and outside. What about individual? What was your highlight individually this year? Tobe, I'll go with you first.
I can't start with me.
Yeah.
I need time to process this information. It does have to be. We kind of said it beforehand, but it has to be during the London Marathon when me and Chris went over that Tower Bridge. We did make that a moment, didn't we?
Oh yeah,
that sounds a bit interesting.
But you know what, Tobe? We was buzzing. We was buzzing from Cutty Sark. Do you remember how loud that was at Cutty Sark? And then we saw Little Fletch, and I jumped on him. Watch the video. I jumped on him, and then we basically rode that crest, didn't we? And then all of a sudden, we were at Tower Bridge, and we'd gone across. I can't even remember. Tobe, I was just buzzing the whole way across. Yeah. It was incredible. Yeah. And we was on pace as well, by the way, but at that point. But then we was at 15 miles, Tobe, weren't we? We was like, hang on a minute. We're at 50. Where's that gone? It was incredible. Absolutely incredible.
But just that iconic, Tower Bridge, and after all the training and everything over the last, what was it? It was about 18 months back at that point, wasn't it? And then finally, and actually getting there.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I think that must have been a good highlight.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. The return of London Marathon as well, I think. Was not necessarily, obviously for those who took part, but I think also as the running community, the return of the London Marathon being sexy, we can talk about, maybe not now, but the individual errors by some organising committees who put that race together and got everybody into a indoor environment in the midst of a pandemic. But we don't go into that in this podcast. But I think actually, on a serious point, to have the London Marathon back was a really good.
It's such a signature event. Positive thing. It did needed it. It wouldn't have been the same if other stuff or if other big stuff had come back and London hadn't.
Yeah, and the charities as well. You think how much money that generated for those charities that needed it. So I think, selfishly, I'm with Tobe on the running point of view, but I think also as a wider picture, I think that's got to be one of the highlights for the running community, that the London Marathon return. That's a good shout, Tobe, actually.
What about jumping out of a plane?
Well, he was left to the end, wasn't he? It's a shame.
Yeah. There's actually no proof I did it.
One of the events that was in the club, that, if you don't know, was the first skiathlon, wasn't it, Chris? Now, tell people what was involved in that.
So for charity, it started out as a sort of argument, as most of these things do. And it ended up, we tried to talk a certain female Broxbourne runner into jumping out of a plane. And she wouldn't do it. So we said, well, I'll tell you what, why don't you do that? And I'll do the cycling, because again, one of the, not the highlights, one of the worst low points of 2021 was when Tobe made me cycle 20 miles after having a COVID injection. And I hate cycling anyway. And then he made me do that. So I said, I'll tell you what, I'll do the cycling and Tobe could do the running because he's got nothing else he's good at. So she flatly said no. And we said, you know what, what's the worst that could happen? So we decided to jump out of a plane, then do a bike ride, and then a run, all of the same distance. So 13,000 feet is about 4K. So we did that in the summer in Simpson Airfield Base. Al was on volunteer duty and marshalled and race director for the day. So it was amazing to see his naked body with a vest over the high vest over the top.
I could have shorts on.
Yeah, that was incredible to see that. And he was sponsored by Manscaped, and that was great to see. Beautiful. I know some of the participants were nearly sick, but but in all seriousness, it's got to be one of the big highlights of the year, Tobe. Especially being like the sort of last person to jump out of the plane as well. It must have been a massive highlight for you.
I was brilliant, just watching you all go and just hearing these screams just like fade naturally away.
Yeah. And so
on top of those two guys, I had no idea who they
I was
were.
going to say, and to see those two people you'd never met also get out of the plane before you and get to the ground before you, so the other competitors could get a head start. It must have been an incredible feeling up there. That's maybe why you didn't start your watch. You was just overwhelmed.
I was just too. I just couldn't wait to get going. But yeah, it worked though. Put me in the back of the plane, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, you got disqualified, but that's watch the video. Just watch the video, people.
I think I don't know. Has there been any sort of challenge I've done this year that I haven't been disqualified for?
No, you got disqualified from Snowdon. We'll come on to that. We'll talk about that one.
What happened in Snowdon? He didn't get to the top, went off.
Well, there's no evidence of him touching the top. So, according to the guide, you watch it the video on the second part of the video. She categorically says to say that you've reached the top of Snowdon, you have to be seen to touch the top. And if you watch my video, I go up there and I touch it. There is zero pieces of evidence out there that Toby actually got to the top and touched it.
Well, in defence of Toby, I would suggest that if you got your backsides in gear, you'd have been up there to see him do it.
There is that. The speed goat did get up there in like 10 minutes. So I blame the guide personally for not being up there quicker to ratify his claim of getting up.
Al, what was your personal highlight, mate?
Well, it's funny, really. 2021 was a game of two halves. See, you're a sports journalist, you'll get that reference. So
love a cliche, mate.
The first half was about the running. So for me, the highlight was Dorney, and not because of Toby's toilet problems.
Personal low light, Toby.
That was not one of my highlights.
Yeah, we was going to get through an episode looking back at 2021 and not reference Dorney.
Number one on my list out to talk about, Dorney.
Right. Okay. Well, while Toby was doing that, I was smashing out my first sub-4 marathon. And the reason that was so important is because with COVID and 2020, it felt like it had been 2 years in the making. So to rock up that day, and again, it was one of the first events, I think one of the first big events back just after restrictions were lifted. It was just great to be out there. And I'm sure that helped. Just having that adrenaline buzz running through you probably helped take a few minutes off what would have been a pretty good run anyway. So from a racing point of view, hitting that milestone was pretty good. The second half, I think, was more about the community, and that was because I had to take a backward step. Life got a little bit tricky in the middle half of 2021 on a personal level, and suddenly running was no longer the release. It became part of my anxiety, and having to get up and run and nail a plan because I was targeting London brought me down, and I had to step away from it. So the second half of the year has kind of taught me to try and love the community and love the atmosphere and step away from all the stats, all the timing and all the pressure that comes with putting yourself on performance goals. So being on mile 12 at the marathon, handing out water bottles was brilliant. Loads of volunteering, getting qualified and helping others. So it's been a different focus in the second half of the year for me. It's been less about.
Well, sort of, in many ways, it's you would never say that something like this that you went through was a blessing, but it's opened your eyes a little bit and it's helped you sort of like experience different things, and move on in different areas.
Yeah, and so therefore you look back at both parts of it, and I can take good out of both parts. But running wise, 2022, I've got to get back on it. I want to smash some of those marathons again. Still had to defer a couple of the big ones in Copenhagen and Amsterdam, so I'm really looking forward to getting back on the plan at the start of 2022.
I think that's a really good point. That it's not necessarily that the running achievements; it's the personal achievements. I think talking objectively as a mate, I think, and what he's achieved, coaching wise on PT and getting qualified and all that. And being out there in Essex, helping other runners and coaching people, it's incredible to achieve that. It really is. With a full-time job as well, to be able to take that learning of yourself and try and improve yourself as a human being, and dealing, like you just touched on now, with like personal stuff, to then come out of it as a better person by the end of the year is a massive achievement. you know, because a lot of people, they just get, you know, they stick their head in the sand and hope for the best. So to be able to, you know, to develop as a person, same with you, Tobe, as well, you know, with your qualifications and all that sort of stuff, you know, you've got to give yourself some credit, give yourself a pat on the back, because a lot of people just sit on their backside and watch Netflix. So, you know, you're out there, Al, same with you, Tobe, but you're out there, Al, you're helping people in their journeys. So, you know, you've got yourself qualified. You've gone to, you know, because there's are people out there who reckon that, you know, they're doing this and doing that, writing plans, and they're not qualified to do it, but they're still, you know, telling people what they should and shouldn't do. But you've gone out of your comfort zone. You've learned stuff. You've absorbed stuff. You've got qualified. You've paid to get qualified as well, which is expensive. People don't understand that these things cost money to get qualified, and you've done that. And now you're now able to help other people, which is incredible. Help kids, help adults, help seniors, you know, anybody along that journey. You're improving other people's well-being. And that is a really, really massive, important point that you've done this year. You've improved your own well-being, but also more as well, I think it's a really important point. You're helping others, which I think people underestimate. They go, oh, he's now a running coach. He's just charging for this. He wants money for that. He's doing this money. It's not about that. The fact is, you're now helping people achieve what they want to achieve. And, you know, you've gone out of your way to get qualified so you can be a better human being and deliver that in the best way.
But that is just as rewarding as smashing your own PBs.
Yeah, 100%. I've seen my clients this year, you know, all achieve what they wanted to achieve. Mm-hmm. And that makes me more proud to a degree than my own achievements, you know.
Absolutely.
To see what they've done, even on not necessarily the one-to-one clients, but you guys like in Hartford, and you know what give you a case, look what Petra's been doing, you know, and just an example. We know we're banging on about Petra, but hopefully people can relate to her because, you know, they've seen her on the channel. But look what she's achieved. She started coming to Hartford, and I would say that's improved her as a runner, Wilco. I don't know whether you agree or not, but you know, she's out there. I said to her, you know, go and smash 350 at a marathon. She went out and knocked it out of the park. And it's having that belief, but being around other runners in that environment that she's now absorbed in. And you know,
it certainly helped me that when she did Manchester the week before I did Yorkshire. I mean, she'd got I think it's her fourth marathon. She's done that, but she's done a few before. And it was very reassuring to me that, you know, I'd see her on a Tuesday and I'd say, oh, I've had a crap week. I feel terrible. I'm grumpy. I'm horrible. And then she'd turn around and say, oh yeah, Dan thinks I'm a pain in the neck to live with this week. You know, I'm doing it. I'm fed up. And, you know, it's great that, and which is what the community is all about. It
gives you a warm feeling.
In many ways, running is, despite the fact that we go on about, you know, group activity and things like that, is a solitary activity for a lot of people a lot of the time.
And they like that.
You're out there own. So it's nice to dip in, to go once a week and just pick brains of people. That's what I like about it. That's what's really been good for me.
Yeah, I love it. I love the clubs, but I say I get just as much of a kick as well seeing the guys posting. I've said it, I think, before at the start on the community when they put up their Medal Monday posts, and I see people out there, you know, smashing whatever they're doing. It doesn't matter if it's part run, 3, 4, 5K. Couldn't give a monkeys, but just being out there, that puts a smile on my face as well. Just the fact that they're doing it, having fun, and all that, and I mean, we've got a bit sentimental today, boys. You know, it's quite unique for us. But that and it's genuine. It is genuine that, you know, that means more to me than, you know, my own goals. You know, I couldn't really give you boys know I could give a toss really about the times. It makes no. I would much rather see Toby run sub 20 than me run a sub 20. I get more of a kick from that than watching him, you know, in pain and throwing up. That means more to me than me. What? But it is true, and you know, try and make it a little bit lighter. But you know, it is true. I do enjoy that. So Wilco, York Marathon, Great North Run highlight.
They were both highlights in different ways. I'll start with York first because it was my first marathon, and I had sort of signed up for Edinburgh before the pandemic kicked off. So that was something that I'd been really looking forward to, and I'd signed up for it sort of 6 months before that. and I was going to do it. It was going to be like the big target, and obviously that fell by the wayside. I was going to go to Frankfurt as well. That went. Yeah, it was a bit. Look, everybody will tell you in the group who's done one, it's the biggest thing that they'll do. The first marathon is a massive thing, to tick off. You think, it gives you such a sort of sense of achievement, and the whole 1% thing, like so few people do it, and you can count yourself in that club. I think that gives you a real boost. But I must say, the Great North Run was good this year because it was a different experience to the one that I did before. I mean, when the Great North Run was when I first sort of like became aware of the group, when I first did it, like 2019 was the first time I became aware, because I was trawling through Facebook and found the Great North Run group on 40 Runs. And I thought, oh, this will be great because I've not been to Newcastle before. This will have lots of tips about transport, places to stay, things like that. This will be great. I'll get involved in that. But then it was still very much a peripheral thing. And so I turned up at the pub. Everybody met at the Slug and Lettuce, but I didn't really mix with anybody. I sort of like watched a little bit from the sidelines and things like that. But this year, because I'd been in the Hartford group and Petra went and Hayley went from Hartford, and there were various other people, there was a lot more talk about where we're going to be, where we're going to meet. And then I went out with Fletch in the evening on the Sunday, because I stayed over for the extra day, and I met lots of people, Lisa and Karen and various others, Sue and various people who were based up in the Northeast. So I felt more part of the community this year. So from a community perspective, that was a boost, and that increased my sort of like awareness of the group and everything like that. But what I think also, that having a taste of that and then doing this will mean that I'll get to meet a lot more people and be a lot more sort of centrally involved, which is one thing that when the Hartford group launched, I thought this is just what I need, and I think I'll go in quite, get involved in the the community aspect of all this and get to know people. So that became a conscious decision about 18 months ago that I was going to get a bit more involved, and then the Hartford thing landed in my lap, and I thought, this is great. This is the chance.
Yeah, essential part of the team now, Wilco. You're a long run show podcast host, one of the biggest running podcasts in the UK, if not the world.
Well, I'll put it on my CV now. Yeah, a
celebrity in the making. You're going to rock up at the running show, National Running Show in Birmingham, where we are filming and recording one of these podcasts, and everyone's going to be asking you for your autograph and probably a selfie. I'm guaranteed that's going to be probably, at least 3 of us out of the team that's going to happen to. Toad. What? Sorry.
You want a selfie?
No. Was that a highlight of 2021, Toad, having a selfie?
He hasn't had a selfie.
A selfie at the top of Snowdon.
Nobody has had a selfie with Toby, and we're not allowed to talk about this competition anymore because otherwise the rules will be broken. One of the rules of the selfie autograph contest is you're not allowed to talk about the rules of the selfie autograph contest.
Okay.
So enough about that.
I'll get on script with that then.
Yeah.
Stay
on plan, Wilco.
Getting carried away already.
Yeah,
talking about 2022. Well, we're not there yet, are we? We've still got another week to go.
I would add, I think in terms of 21 highlights, talking about Snowdon, I think that was again a big highlight. I think running down it was probably one of the biggest highlights because that was one of the biggest adrenaline rushes. That was more of a rush than jumping out of the plane, was running down that mountain. Would you agree, Toe?
I think that's a hard one to comprehend.
I don't know. It was a buzz, wasn't it, bruv?
It was great. I love running down it, especially beating the train down.
Yeah, we beat the train down. Did we tell you that, Wilco? We raced the train. There's a train in Snowdon that starts about. So we saw it when you come down. It's at the station, and it left literally as we went through that part. So our job was to beat it down, and we absolutely annihilated it.
It's hardly the bullet train, was it? Though, let's be honest. It wasn't really the bullet train.
We wasn't looking for your input on this subject.
A train's a train.
His microphone works at that point, didn't it?
We beat a train. And that is, it was man versus train. And talking of man versus something, boys, for 2022, man versus horse, that is on the list. But anyway, that's looking forward. We're looking back. I would say, Snowdon needs a shout out. Dawny needs a shout out, not because of what Al said about, because that is, and I love Dawny because we were running together. But mainly the highlight was seeing Toby going 22 different pit stops. That was probably one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Although I did feel sorry for him for about 3 seconds, but it was hilarious when we had to send the drone out to find him at the end of the race. The amazing guys at Active Training World have a drone, and they went out because we wouldn't know where he was. He was coming out of a Portaloo, and he was on drone. He was on the drone footage coming out of Portaloo up at the top, and they followed him back on the drone. So that was got to be one of the highlights. Was Toby getting chased by a drone after coming out of a Portaloo?
I thought you didn't care about me.
Oh, that was funny. But he still managed to do it. I wouldn't mind. But he still managed to finish in just over 4 hours. Oh, man, that was...
when you got to run quickly to the next Portaloo, mate, speed to...
Oh, yeah, that was funny. I mean, that's your worst nightmare for any runner, is to wake up with the trots and then and have to run a marathon.
Yeah, it's hilarious as long as it happens to somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think that was... What would you say, Sam?
I wouldn't know, to be honest.
Yeah, well, it could still happen to one of us. It could still happen. But yeah, that's definitely... I think like you say, if you look at it in a whole, what we've achieved in terms of the different things, you know, being back out there racing, but also some of the challenges that we've done, getting out of our comfort zones. You know, nobody wants to jump out of a plane. Nobody necessarily wants to run up a mountain. And like Toby, you know, he's done some stupid stuff. You know, we've all tried to... Al and I ran a half marathon on a track for no particular reason other to find out if his carbon plated shoes were quicker than the other ones. So, you know, it is incredible to think of what we've done, just the 4 of us. So imagine if you, you know, I did a little video for when we do the National Running Show. We've got Tobes managed to blag us a TV that's going to go on the stand. So again, we're going to look professional. We might not be professional, but we will at least look professional. We're going to have a TV. So I've done a 3-minute video. Most of it, as you'd expect, features me. But there are some.
What's your name above the door, mate? You know.
But you know what, Al? I'm actually gutted now because I forgot. I should have put some of that when we did that around that track, because that's a hard effort. If you think back at that, bruv, we ran 52 laps of a track to beat a half marathon PB.
You can always issue the director's cut after the event.
Yeah, I mean, I might have to get that redo that, because that's an epic achievement, bruv. To do 52 laps of a track and to PB, I think is...
Technically, it was in 2020. It was in December.
Oh, that's why it's not in. But yeah, it's it's a good point. It was the point. But no, sorry. So I was saying that we've done this highlights reel for the National Running Show. So if you come along to the show, you'll see it. It has got a really good soundtrack to it, but I think after we've listened to it for 12 hours, we're going to hate it. But it will be on. So check it out when you come along to the stand. But yeah, and looking back on that, you can see some of the amazing things that we've achieved, but also what the nice thing I did when I put that video together, and I try and do one every year, it was amazing to see the laughs, you know, the giggles, the smiling, the bantering, and just the laughs we were having, like the hugging each other, the bursting out laughing, and just the sheer cocking about at races and events, and the interaction with the crowds. Like say, talk about jumping into the crowd at the London Marathon. The people behind us going, "What's that geezer doing?" You know, because I just went straight in and jumped into the crowd, like they do Formula One at the end of the races. It was like that. I was like Lewis Hamilton jumping into Little Fletch. And you look back and you see that, and you just think, you know, despite the pandemic that's going on and everything else, you know, that's crap in the world, you know, everybody, you know, all the worries we've had, people on furlough, and, you know, some people ran out of work, and financial worries and mental health issues and personal stuff going on. We've still managed to get out there and do something awesome. And that's what it's all about, you know. And I think 2021 has been a challenging year for me, mentally and physically. Really struggled in 2021, and I genuinely mean it. I don't talk about it much, but genuinely, honestly, really struggled in 2021 in parts, mentally and physically, as you boys know, some of the stuff. But to then look back on that and realise still what we've achieved and the fun we've had, and the mates, that we've all become stronger and been part of something awesome. It's amazing. It really is, and it's great to be able to reflect on it. And we're very lucky, because there's a lot of people out there who don't have what we have, and are talking about everybody in the 40 Runs community and the club. To have that sort of cradle, that nice warm blanket around you when you go to a race or event, or maybe you're out there on your own and you can listen to the Long Run podcast, or get back and post a picture on the Facebook group, or look at Toby on Instagram of a picture of him eating. That's the sort of that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's been an incredible year.
Put into those photos, I'm quite impressed with the amount of time you'll sit. It's like bird watching, I think. The amount of time
have you seen what he's talking about on my Insta stories? Have you seen it? There will be, if I'm out with Tobe, just watch. You'll know if I'm out of him, because on my Insta stories there will be pictures of himself eating. And I've just got some absolute belters throughout the year. I really have had some. The best one is
a highlights video of all of them.
With that, he's got this burger here like this. And he's got, and I've got him like
beautiful.
It was a quarter pounder with cheese, and it was like, it couldn't have been an uglier picture. It's quality.
Maybe it's a podcast. We have to now try and explain.
Oh yeah, sorry. We have to describe it now, won't we? Because it's a podcast. Anyway, so there you go. So I think that's a great way to finish the.
Absolutely, mate. I couldn't agree more. I definitely think so. Thanks ever so much for letting us into your lives, really, whether you're running around a park or along a river, or you're taking time out of your Friday night to join us at 7:00 live on YouTube,
not live,
or Facebook, or not so live this week.
This won't be live, remember?
No, but we like people to have the habit of joining us anyway.
Yeah. I like what you did
and
there.
Please remember, like we said at the beginning, drop a line on the Facebook group or send us an email, and you will see this. This is Christmas Eve. Have a wonderful Christmas.
Yeah,
so,
Merry Christmas.
Drop us a line and tell us what your highlights is, and we'll talk about them in the new year when we get to join you again live. Once again, if you can't join us on the stream, then we're available on wherever you get your podcasts, on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, where we're scaling the charts at a rate.
Trending,
flying up the charts. We could be like the Beatles. We'll be number one for weeks upon end. Bryan Adams. Bryan Adams will be number one for about 4 months. So, yeah, thanks ever so much for joining us. We wish you all the merriest of Merry Christmases. Take care of each other. Have a wonderful time. Get out and have a run tomorrow.
Yeah.
Find a partner. Get yourself out there. Great way to start your Christmas day.
Christmas Day park run
around your local park. So thanks ever so much for joining us, and we will see you next week when it'll be New Year's.
Christmas, guys.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Can I take me out
forward? We'll be looking forward next week. Yeah. So thanks for joining us.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Tobe.
Merry Christmas.
Roll the titles.
Let's do it.